And that, welcome to part 1 of 2, where I'm going to show you how to play, how to find, understand every single chord possible on the piano. I'm going to use the demonstration key of C, and we're going to go through all the fancy chords, all different types. Part 1 is going to be just a little intro blurb, and the chords within an octave. And then part 2 is going to be the extensions, which will include 9, 11, and 13. So worry about that in part 2. I can't teach you chords if you don't know your major scales, because chord symbology, I've prepared a pen and pieces of paper to write down some examples. The symbology refers to notes from the major scale. So if you don't know the major scales, you can't play the chords. It's not just a mishmash, a mix and match of random black and white notes randomly on the piano. They're all rooted, excuse the pun, in a chosen key. So you have to know them. I have a major scale mastery playlist with 12 videos, because generally speaking there are 12 keys, and that should help you. At least master the key of C, F, G, E flat, and B flat. At least begin with those 5, and you should be on your way. So, when you see a chord symbol, and I have lots of compositions here. Here's a random one. It's just a random pieces of paper here. So you see each one has a letter and then some numbers and symbols after it. The basic idea is, when you see a letter, I'm going to use C for these examples because we're lucky on the piano that the key of C only contains the white notes. If this was a guitar video, I couldn't say, let's do the key of C, it's only the white notes. So we're just lucky. But any letter, well, as I use the letter of C, the key of C, this can be any other key. F sharp, B flat, E flat, doesn't matter, C sharp, doesn't matter. So, when you see the letter, that is telling you to play the major triad. So the letter implies automatically 3 notes, which is 1, 3, and 5. That's it. You can add stuff to that, modify any of the other notes as I'm going to do, add stuff to them. But the letter refers to the triad, which is called a major triad, which is built from the major scale. 1, 3, 5. This is all about numbers. So, okay, good, I'm just checking my camera angle. So, that's it, first of all. And I can add stuff to this. Now, I might start using chords that you think are complicated, but they're not. There's no concept of complicated when it comes to this kind of thing. It's like major scales. They're all the same template. They all have 7 notes. So the key of A flat is no different from the key of C. F sharp is no different from B. It doesn't matter. It's just 7 notes and a pattern, and you get familiar with that pattern. It doesn't matter what the key is. Just because it's used less frequently doesn't mean at all that it's more complicated. It's very important to understand that. So, C. Now I can add anything to this. I'm going to put a 6 next to it. So I've got C6. What does that mean? Remember this little ditty. You play what you say. I have said here, or I've written, whatever, C, 6. So I'm just going to play the 6 on top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's a nice chord. A 6th chord is just a nice, happy, soft chord. Play it in any key. F, A, E flat, B. Just a nice sound. So that's all it means. You play what you say. Let me add some variations to a triad and show you the various types of triads. I think this is a nice way to begin with our in-octave chords. But this is the general logic. You take the letter means the triad, and then you add stuff to it, or modify the 3 or the 5, and as we'll see in a minute, the 7 as well. So I'll start on the root. This is very easy. You don't move it. The root stays the same, and this is called root position. You may have heard of inversions, but that's way beyond this video. It doesn't really matter too much. So we'll stay in root positions for now. The root does not change. So you can do stuff with the 3rd, and you can do stuff with the 5. And later, you'll see that you can do something with the 7 as well. What can you do? The 3, let's start with the 3. The 3 actually has 4 positions, which may surprise you. And each one has a name. The first one is itself, a major triad. The other one you may have heard of is a minor triad. Minor only refers to the third lowering a half step or semitone. Minor does not mean lower any other note value. You don't say, let's minor the 9, let's minor the 7, let's minor the 6, let's minor the 5. It doesn't apply to those numbers. It only refers to the third. It has its own name. Lowering the third, a semitone or half step, is called minor. That's it. If you want to lower any other note value, as we will later, you just say flat and then that number. So you have your major triad and the minor triad. So the 3 has lowered. Now that can go, so that's 2 positions, the major and the minor triad. It can go in 2 other places, and they are called suspended triads. Sus 4, sus 2. Sus means suspended, not sustained, as I thought it did in my very early months of the piano. So, what does that mean? It means that you move the third either up a half step, a semitone. That's called sus 4 because the 4 is being suspended, and it has a kind of pop, hanging, floaty sound. And it kind of wants to resolve. It's not too romantic, it's just a nice little sort of floaty sound. So that's called sus 4, and that is only written as sus 4. It's the only way you'll ever see that. There's no symbols or anything. Some of the other chords have symbols. That's just sus 4. The other one is sus 2. Very simple. That's less common. I'd say that's 10%, and that's 90%. Sus 4 is much more common. So sus 2 is when the 3 goes down a whole step down to the second. So it goes over the minor down to the 2. That's where it belongs. So the notes here are 1, 2. In a way, you could say like double flat 3, which is a bit silly, but it's a second really. 1, 2, and the 5. Because I haven't told the 5 to change. So that would be C, sus 2. Now that is a bit more sort of love song. It's a kind of 80s sound. It's not the same sus sound as the sus 4. I'll play the sus 2. You see, you could even write a song where it goes sus 4, then sus 2. See, it just has a nice little movement. So the 3, the E in this case, it can go to a sus 4, it can be a major, it can be minor, it can be sus 2. That's all it can do. Now the 5 has 2 positions, and this is interesting. If you sharpen the 5, there's three ways to write this. It is called augmented. That's what the AUG means. And you raise the 5 a semitone, a half step. That's called augmented. Quite a common chord. You should learn it. But the point of these videos is I'm just showing you how you play what you say from the major scale. So 1, 3, 5, and you see a plus. Of course, I can put a C in front of these. C sus 4, C sus 2, C augmented. Sometimes it's written as C sharp 5. Sometimes the sharp 5 is in brackets. Sometimes, quite often, you'll see C aug, or whatever the key is, of course, aug. You see that a lot. I use the plus. Can I prove that from any of my compositions? There's nothing showing. Oh, well, there's a little plus symbol here. Yeah, but I use the plus symbol to mean augmented. I don't write aug or sharp 5. So that's a very going forward kind of sound. So C represents the triad, but it's saying do something. Plus. Raise the 5. Make it sound augmented. Same chord in both hands. C, E, G sharp, C, E, G sharp. Very, very nice. Normally it's an opening chord in jazz. And it likes to go up whatever a fourth is. So C would go up to F. See how that resolves very nicely? Very, very nice. So that's what you can do with the 5. You can raise it. Now, you can also, it's not a very common chord, but you can flatten, not minor, that only refers to the 3. You can flatten the 5th. And that is leading us in a particular direction towards a chord, which you may have heard of, called a diminished triad. So let's just drift into the diminished area here. You can sometimes see a chord written as C. It's not so common, but you can see it. It's just literally C flat 5, which is saying play the triad, C, E, G, but flatten the 5th, which gives you an interesting sound. It's kind of nice. So, it's not so common. It's like a 5% kind of chord. But if you play the flat 5 with the minor, you get that nice squishy, closed up, warm sound of a diminished triad. Triad, of course, 3 notes only. The first bit of information is you'll never normally just play a triad as a diminished. A diminished likes one of 2 notes on top of it, and they each have a name. So here's your diminished triad. It's a minor and a flat 5. You could write that as C, minor, small m, and then the flat 5. Okay? But there's a symbol for the diminished part, which is a circle. I'll just turn over the paper. So you'll see often this. And I'll just jump ahead because it will make sense very soon. Sometimes you see a circle with a line through it, which is called half diminished. And I also have a proposal which doesn't exist anywhere, but it's my idea, which is to be called a C quarter diminished, but I'll get into that in a moment. So just have a look at this. The diminished part refers to the minor and the flat 5 in all the keys. But that, you never really just play a diminished triad. It sounds cute, but it wants another note. The most common is to put the 6 on top. Okay, in music theory, if there's any boffins watching, often that will be called a diminished 7. It's a double flat 7. You take the 7 and you flatten it twice. Okay, that's beyond this video. But it's easy to say it's a 6 on top. So that is called a whole diminished because it's a group of minor thirds. C to E flat is a minor. It's a whole step and a half step. E flat to G flat is a minor interval. It's a whole step with a half step. G flat to A is a minor interval. It's a whole step with a half step. If you do one more, whole step half, you get to C again, which is the same as the beginning, and it repeats. So diminished, whole diminished, is just a little closed loop of minor thirds. There's 4 notes in it. Since there are 12 notes in our scale, in our chromatic scale, and there's 4 notes in a whole diminished chord, there's logically and factually 3 groups of 4. So in your own time, play around with the C group, which includes E flat, G flat or F sharp, and A, because they're completely interchangeable. You can put the C on top, same notes. Put the E flat on top, same notes. Put the F sharp on top, same notes. It's a closed loop. Put the A on top again, back to the beginning. So it's called a group, a diminished group. So you have the C group, which is these 4 positions. If I go up a semitone, we get the C sharp group. So that includes E. If I put that on top, we get E diminished. Put the bottom note on top, and we get G diminished. Put the G on top, we get B flat diminished. So there's another group. And the next group is the D group. So you get D diminished, F diminished, A flat diminished, and B diminished. You can play around with that in your own time, but that's where it comes from. It's a whole diminished. That's the circle. And you see that a lot in jazz. C sharp diminished, F diminished, A flat diminished, E diminished, doesn't matter what it is, B diminished, A diminished is common, E diminished is common. You just get used to seeing them. The half diminished is the diminished triad because there's a circle involved. But this time, because it's a half diminished, you don't put the 6 on top, you put the flat 7 on top. In other words, another way to say it is you have your minor triad, first one. The second one, at the top this time, is a major triad. So it's 2 whole steps, or 4 half steps. This is called a half diminished, and it's a circle with a line through it. Very common in jazz. Listen to the difference. The half diminished is more open and unstable and wants to close. Whole diminished. More closed, more stable. So the half diminished is a bit more like you're entering a kind of dreamland almost. It's like a fairy kind of sound. So very nice. Whole diminished, closed, stable, warm, containing. often in music you can hear like this kind of chromatic climb of whole diminished. It's a very, very nice sound, almost Debussy-like. So that's very nice. Now, I'm proposing a quarter diminished. There is nowhere in the theory a diminished triad with this major 7 on top. We're going to get to 7s in a minute, but with this, so you see we did a whole diminished with a 6 on top, a half diminished with the flat 7 on top, and there's no symbol or chord, and you don't even see it written anywhere, where you have a whole diminished, where you have a diminished triad with that major 7 on top. But I kind of like that sound. It's like an ending kind of sound. Nothing needs to come after that. It's a very, very stable, final sounding chord. So I propose to call that, so at the moment we have a C diminished triad with 6, whole diminished, a C diminished triad with a flat 7, half diminished. Why not have a C diminished triad, or any key, with a major 7 and call it a quarter diminished? I propose that if there's any nerds listening, music theory nerds. What is wrong with that? What would you say about that? I think it's great. I would use that a lot. Anyway, that's about the diminished stuff. Now we get to the 7. There's 2 7s, and they are often confusing for people. I'll just jump over to the other piece of paper now. So the letter represents the triad, and if I just put the number 7, I've been living in Europe a long time, I put a line through my 7, even though I think we don't do that traditionally in England. That, you might think, means, oh, okay, I play the C, it's a triad, and then I put the 7 on top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oh, this is it. And it sounds romantic. Unfortunately, that's wrong. Because, and it does make sense, what we're doing here is playing the 7 from the major scale. That's why it's called major 7. But this symbol, C7, doesn't mean major 7. It means dominant 7. A dominant 7 is when you lower the major 7 down a half step. It's like the 6.5. It's between the 6 and the 7. It's a 6.5. There's nothing to do with the 6. I'm just doing it visually. I'm saying that visually for you. It's not the major 7. I'll talk about that next. It's obviously not the 6. You just lower the 7 half a step. So it's between the 6 and the 7. That is just called a C7. You just say it's just the number 7. F7. E flat 7. A7. E7. B7. It's a happy pop chord. It's a jazz chord. Nice chord. Everyone likes C7. Bluesy even. It's a nice chord. Very, very nice. Everyone likes 7 chords, I assume. Major 7 is written differently, and it sounds romantic. Much different feeling. And that's written as, there's 3 ways to play that. The most common you'll see in jazz symbology is a triangle. That means major 7. Sometimes you see a 7 after that as well, which is basically telling you the same thing. You don't need to put a 7 after the triangle because it's implied. So I'll sort of rub it out and just say it's not really good practice because it's redundant. The 7 is redundant because the triangle already means playing major 7, the 7th of the major scale. So you see that. You can see also a capital M and a 7. Sometimes you'll see C either capital or small, but the word M-A-J, 7. So you see these variations. Sometimes this M is capital in the Maj 7. All of those, but the most common is triangle. I use it all the time. 1 there, 1 down here, 1 here, another piece of paper. Over here, there's 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. I use triangles all the time. So major 7 means play the 7th of the major scale. If you don't see the word major, or the symbol for major, then you flatten it and play the note that's between the 6 and the 7. It sounds happier, but both of them are used 50-50, I would say. They're very, very common chords. You need to know the difference here. So now we've talked about the 3 and the 5 and the 7. And I've showed you some alterations. They're called altered notes. When you like sharpen the 5 or flatten the 5, you would say that the note has been altered. So now you can mix and match. So this is kind of the final part of the video, really, part 1 anyway, where you discover what sounds nice, what works, and how you label them. So what if I want to play C minor major 7? Well, I play what I say. C, then I've said minor, major 7. I play that. You can make an effort to note the feeling it gives you. That's a mysterious, kind of dark, strange kind of sound. Minor major 7. Very, very odd sound. Mysterious. It has its place in music. So that's C minor major 7. I'm playing what I'm saying. Let me just think of another one. Let's just do... I'll do one with the 7. I'll play C minor 7. What does that mean? You might think that it means C minor 7. The minor the 7. No, the minor only refers to the 3rd. So C minor 7 would be C minor, and I only said the number 7. So I have to flatten the major 7. If I wanted to play, as I just did, C minor major 7, I'd say major 7. You have to specify it. So if I were to write C minor major 7, it would be C with a small m. Sometimes you see a minor, you see a what do you call it? Let's say a minor symbol. That's what I'm trying to show you. A hyphen. Sometimes you see a little like dash, a minus symbol. So sometimes you can see C minor 7 like that or like that. I'm just going to show you in a minute. C didn't come up very well. So you see, like all of these mean C minor 7. C with a little hyphen and a 7. C small m 7. C min 7. C minor 7. They're the ways that you'll see that written. And that simply means C minor 7, because I didn't say C minor major 7. Let's have a look at another one. One of them that doesn't work. You don't normally alter 2 notes when it's not just the minor. So for example, if I play C augmented, sharp 5, with a minor, that doesn't exist. They cancel each other out. It doesn't sound very nice. It doesn't sound very nice. It sounds very bland. In fact, this is A flat in the first inversion. It's A flat in the first inversion. So if you're in the key of C and play a minor sharp 5, it doesn't give you anything interesting. You lose both of the values, cancel each other out. So just remember that you'll never see C augmented or C minor augmented together. C augmented minor. It just doesn't make any sense. It's one of the rare ones that you don't play. But I could play, for example, C7 sus. That's nice. C7 sus 4. When you say sus, it normally means sus 4 because sus 2 is really rare. So you can just assume that the sus means sus 4. This is nice. The 7 goes well with the sus 4. It's quite nice. Again, what about the 6 chord? Now, you wouldn't normally, for example, play a sus 4 with a 6. You just don't really see that. It wouldn't sound so bad. You could if you had to. That would be C6 sus. You could play C6 sus 2. But you just don't see that kind of thing. So, let me give you a little final list of the chords which come from within here. The triads. Major triad is just the letter or the minor with a small m or a hyphen or min. C minor. Start with the triads. You have the augmented triad, sharp 5. You have the sus 4. Oh, you can also have the flat 5 triad, which is not diminished, because that's with the minor as well, but I'll do that after. This is just a flat 5 triad. I'm just showing you how the 5 moves. It can be augmented or flat 5. We have the sus 4 triad. 3 goes up to the 4, or the sus 2 triad, where the 3 goes down to the 2, for a kind of ballad sound. We have the 6 chord. We have the minor 6. We have the major 7. We have minor major 7. We have the regular 7 chord, C7. C minor 7. Very nice. You can even combine, like I said, the augmented with the 7. So you'd have C7 plus C7 augmented. They go well together. It's quite nice. We have the whole diminished triad. We'll have the diminished triad first, which likes the A on top, whole diminished, the 7 on top, half diminished, major 7 on top, which is my contribution. Let's call it a quarter diminished, and that's the one that had the double line through it. Just an option. So that's all the things that you can do within an octave. In the next video, we're going to go beyond the 8, and this 1, 3, 5, 7 logic is going to continue in its 3s and go 7. It's going to go 9, 11, and 13. And if you look, that gives you D, F, A, which are the missing notes of the major scale when you just play 1, 3, 5, 7. So in a way, they're like 2, 4, and 6. But because they're outside the octave in theory, literally, theoretically speaking, they're called extensions. So it's 9, 11, and 13. You'll see that there are chords where you can play an extension, but you play it inside the octave, but it's still theoretically a 9 or an 11 or 13. It just sounds a bit more, it just sounds nicer sometimes when it's within the octave. Anyway, that's all part 2. So that is literally every chord. And you just play what you say. That's it. Here's the sus chords, here's the 6, sus4, sus2, augmented. So if you have a look at a real book in jazz, called a real book, a fake book, look at jazzstudies.us, type in the name of a song you like into Google Images, and you'll just see a lead sheet for that song. You'll see all these symbols. You'll see the minor 7s, you'll see the triangle, you'll see the plus, you'll see the 7, you'll see the minor major 7 maybe. You'll see some extensions, of course, 9, 11, and 13, and their alterations, but we'll talk about that in part 2. So, play around. Experiment in the key of C, F, G, E flat, and B flat first, and get familiar with a lot of these shapes. I have a video, which I'll link to, where I show the most common chords in each key. I don't want to go into all that now, but just to understand that certain keys, because songs are written mainly in certain keys, C, F, G, E flat, B flat, some chords are almost never seen in certain keys, whereas some chords are super common. One example would be C minor 7. C has a lot of chords. You'll see C minor 7 a lot. You'll see C7 a lot. You'll see C6 a lot. Major 7 a lot. You'll see whole diminished and half diminished a lot. So almost all the chords exist in the key of C, whereas if you jump to a key like F sharp, you're rarely going to see F sharp major 7. You're rarely going to see D flat 6. You're rarely going to see B minor 6, because they're just not chord types that are so common in those keys. So there is a hierarchy, and I have a video on the most common chord types in every key. Maybe watch that once you've really got familiar with this and part 2, then look at that one. So that's it. Play around. When I started, I was doing all of this stuff in the music room at school, and I was just playing around. I found my natural fingering, and you visualize the shapes at and away from the piano. It's just numbers based on the major scale, and it only works if you know the major scales. That's it, really. So, hope it's been of use to you. Enjoy playing around, and maybe share in the comments, some favorite chord types, some stuff you found, maybe some questions. Why not this? Why not that? What about this? What about that? And I'll be happy to answer. Until then, all the best. See you in part 2. Bye for now.